Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Texas Toy Museum. I'm Gavin, joined by some amazing guests as we are here at Fanboy TV South by Southwest Live coverage for 2019. This movie we're going to get to in a second, I had to watch a couple times because it's really smart and it scared me. So let's introduce the people behind Human Nature. You are?
Adam Bolt, director.
I'm Elliot Kirschner, a producer. Executive producer, too.
So in a sentence or two, let's tell everyone what Human Nature is about so they kind of know what they're getting into.
Sure. Human Nature is about this scientific discovery called CRISPR, which is a technology for gene editing, or what people also call genetic engineering. It's very precise and easy to use, and it is revolutionizing science and medicine and all kinds of things.
And it's amazing that we have come this far in science, but it's also terrifying. At some point, to think that you can go and manipulate the genes to kind of get what you want out of a kid, but you can also cure diseases and help people live better lives. How did you balance that kind of tightrope as you're making this film to know that there's a side that people are going to go 100% against and also 100% for?
Right. Well, I think the scary side is the more obvious side. I think when I would tell people I was working on a film about genetic engineering, the typical reaction was kind of like, whoa, that must be scary, right? So we definitely wanted to explore that territory, but we also wanted to, I think in the near term, the stuff that's happening is extremely positive, like you said, curing really serious diseases. I think there's some things for addressing issues of climate change that are very interesting and definitely worth exploring. And another thing is just that it's really fascinating science, and I hope there's also moments where people are just like, wow, I can't believe humans figured this out.
That's what I was like, because after I watched it, I had to talk to a friend of mine to really just kind of get to the bare bones of it. She's like, if we had this years ago, my husband would probably still be alive.
Right, yeah.
Because he had a degenerative disease. And she's like, I love the fact that they're doing this, but then you get the guy, I think in Japan, who made the first designer babies, and everyone's like, well, what's going to happen in the future? He's like, well, you're not going to know till you do it. I mean, science, I think, is the best thing we have. But at the same token, you're going to get those really crazy people. Have you come across those crazy people? I don't want to say they're really fundamentalist type people, but I would just say that who are like, no, this is going against God.
Those people are out there.
Yeah.
We kind of, one thing we address, the film is kind of in chapters, and one of the chapters is called Playing God, and kind of addresses that trope that's comes up all the time with this kind of stuff. One thing we wanted to do in the film, that chapter actually traces kind of genetic manipulation by humans all the way back to 9,000 years ago when we started domesticating plants and animals. And we wanted to make the point that humans doing, tinkering with the natural world and changing it for our own benefit is nothing new, which doesn't necessarily mean it's good, but certainly agriculture is something that's had a lot of benefits and some big downsides too. So
I agree with that.
The big point is, humans have already had a huge impact on the world, and CRISPR is just, a more powerful, faster, easier way to do that.
So for you, what was it that drew you to really want to be a part of this?
Well, I think one of the things is that there's no denying it's a really big story. And what's exciting is when you start talking to the scientists, not only are they excited about how it was discovered, but they themselves are wrestling with these implications. And they really think, and I think this is what doesn't get transmitted to the public a lot, that the scientists themselves want the public to be part of this discussion. Like, they wanted this film to be made more than anybody. They said, listen, we need help making this discussion open to the world and put it in a way that people could start understanding it, start having a conversation about it. And so to sort of sense that and get a sense like, okay, if the scientists are debating among themselves and they don't agree where to draw the line, and I think showing the public that that's the case, it sort of welcomes them into the discussion, that they shouldn't be scared that they're disagreeing with the scientists, because they'll line up more with one scientist or another. And to make a film that's pushing and pulling what the viewer thinks. And frankly, when we hear from scientists, they themselves have been challenged from the film and sort of say, well, I came in thinking a little bit this way, but it's pushing me into this direction. And in the sense that there's no, a lot of documentaries, I think, are about sort of pushing a point of view, and there's a real purpose for that. But this is an example where we can let the viewers decide where they want, and I think that that's one of the strengths of the film.
I love that you brought that up, because I think discussion on things like this is the most important thing, and someone has to present it, and you guys presented it. So if you could alter anything from your genes on yourself, what would you alter? Or what would you want? Like, I would want, like, blue hair naturally. Like, you could just rock that, doesn't come out, maybe, like, glow-in-the-dark eyes or something. Like, what would you want?
It's funny. I think that one of the things is that, you could think things like cosmetically would be pretty cool. But, I think one of the things we really learned is that we don't know what the implications are when we start making these decisions. And so it's sort of, we should be worried about trying to jump in and say, wow, let's try to do something like this. Like, you might, wow, I'd love to have more hair, obviously, but like, what if the trade-off of that is something we don't know? And I think that we just need to be careful about, it's fun to dream of, but love to live to 200 or be healthy or have better hair. I don't know. It could be anything. But I think that that's, I think that we're a long, long way from getting to the point where we're making these, sort of cosmetic changes when we don't know what the implications would be for bigger things like our health.
Do you think we're going to see the implications or the real big push for this in our lifetime, or do you think it's going to be a couple generations down?
We're already seeing big implications. It depends specifically what you're talking about.
Yeah, like more tinkering, designing, where we're getting that kind of dangerous territory of, I want like this type of baby, or I need this plant to do kind of this thing. Because I know, like, I've been following the Glowing Plant Project forever. Because I think, light up plants are amazing, but they just can't get it right.
Well, that's a good example of a little bit what Elliot was talking about, is that, some of the, kind of really cool stuff that people might want to do turns out to be complicated. So I think right now what we're seeing is already a lot of clinical trials for diseases that are awful and are caused by like a single gene that's mutated and messed up, and that impact is right around the corner. There's multiple things for sickle cell, which we cover in the film, and certain forms of blindness, certain kinds of cancer. So that'll be kind of the first wave, and then obviously some people are interested in exploring this idea of genetically modifying future generations, and I think we're going to see a big debate about whether that's the direction society.
That'll be a very interesting debate. You want to genetically modify dogs, no one's going to care. Start doing humans, you're going to be like, we need to really talk about this. I want like a poodle that's the size of like a rock, no one cares. But when you start bringing in humans into it, it's totally different. So where can people see this at South by?
Well, we have a screening tomorrow night, and I believe at 8, and another screening on Thursday at, I think, 5. Yeah.
What are your plans for after this? You going to go do more human nature, or are you going to explore some other weird sci-fi fun subject?
Well, actually, this film is going on from South by to Hot Docs to Full Frame. We're going to Europe to do our premiere there at
It's
CPH.
going all over the
so
place.
We're going to be tied up bringing this around and hopefully getting a lot of people to see it. And
I think we also we're just really curious about the feedback. Like, we think that we did try to do a science film unlike a lot of science films have been done before, and there's not a lot of science documentaries out there, period. So I think we're really excited to see what the audience thinks of it and use that to help us both sell this film, but also figure out where we want to go in the future with future projects.
Well, thank you guys for coming with this amazing film and this great interview. It opened my eyes to a lot of things I don't normally think about, and I'm hoping it's doing that for a lot of people. So thank you guys. Hope you have a great South by.
thank you.
And we'll be back with our last interview in a little bit.